my best
players.
Rock, I think. If I get him, he'll be.
Yeah.
Because I have horrible Rock. I have Zombie Rock is one of my better Rocks.
I love Zombie Rock.
Mem Rock, but as a coach, I don't really play the. He's kind of outdated for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Stunlock Zombie Rock is probably my best path with a Rock.
Well, this is your final boss that just controls the match, and he's not going to win fast, but he's not going to lose.
Pull it in close here, Mama Rhodes. I'm talking to you, Mama Rhodes. What a psycho! What an absolute psycho he was before.
Yeah,
he was a great heel. I don't really like Nice Guy Rock. I don't really need him to ever be a face again.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know that he's believable as a face anymore.
Interesting.
I kind of like evil board member Rock. And I think that's who he's gonna personify until SummerSlam, where I think he and Cody are gonna main event SummerSlam. So
and I think Roman and Rock will do WrestleMania next year. I think that's the path.
I think Roman could resurface and interfere with SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And I think Roman will be face Roman with face Jimmy and Jey Uso by his side, and they will take down
the bloodline.
And I think The Rock is the true tribal chief at this point. So that's a lot of conjecture. I guess we're talking WWE TV at this point. I've turned a corner for us.
We are. I love it. I love it. So we have Backlash in Lyon.
That was the greatest crowd I've ever seen, ever.
100%.
I want the French to come to every arena from now on.
Yes.
And just pack the house. They were world-class fans. World-class.
They were. And I went into our video for last week for this was, does Backlash even matter? Like, is it even a show that moves the needle at all?
It was a great show.
Having watched it, like the crowd made every match feel, because they did the deux, and then whenever they didn't hit the three, so instead of trois, it sounded like they were saying sacre bleu, but what they were actually saying was the French version of simply two. So 1, 2, simply two. But then every single time they'd go, simply two, simply, except for it was the this is awesome cadence, right?
Nice.
Simply two, simply, So every single, but no, I will say by the end of it, I was like, no more 2 counts, please, because that was like they sang for 5 minutes after every 2 count.
I loved it. I have a whole new respect for the French, not for French Canadians, but for the actual French, not for their imposters on this side of.
Oh wow!
But wow, Lee. They made some of the most boring go to the bathroom matches of the night. Like, watch TV. It felt like black and gold NXT in the small arena in its heyday, where everything mattered, every move mattered, every pinfall mattered. It was really, really a fun show. I wish. And I think this will happen someday. I hope a big card like a SummerSlam or a Royal Rumble goes to France, because could you imagine like what they would do in a Royal Rumble situation? Like, just would be mind blowing. So
it would be. I mean, that was. that was insane. And the results of the matches, I think, were so predictable. Like, I think most people called every single outcome that was there, but it didn't matter because the crowd was so elevated.
They carried it.
Yeah, everything mattered. Every single thing mattered that happened, and that was crazy. But now we're heading towards King and Queen of the Ring.
It's begun.
Rusty, early predictions.
King and Queen of the Ring have begun. They began on Raw this week. They'll continue on SmackDown tomorrow night, and they'll be they will be finalized in Jeddah at Crown Jewel. They continue to make Crown Jewel a high stakes PLE, which it started out as a house show, glorified low stakes. They continue to give the Saudis some of their best action of the year, which is great for them, great for us, great for a fan of WWE. And I'm predicting this year's King of the Ring is going to go one of two ways.
Okay.
It's going to go to solidify the monster status of Gunther. Or it's going to go to solidify the legitimacy of a Jey Uso. But it's either going to be, we want to put this guy over to where he is a premium main event superstar. And I don't know if the brackets work out like that. The main event could likely be Jey Uso versus Gunther, to where even the loser is still, they go, what a match.
Right.
Just as over as the winner. That's my initial thought. How about you, Lee?
I agree 100% on the guy's side. I think Gunther gets it, but they're trying to make main event Jey Uso somebody that you're going to believe in the main event. They're not going to put the IC title on him right now. I mean, I could see Chad Gable taking the title from Sammy at Crown Jewel if they build that, and then Jey Uso going against Gable.
Now. You know that? The Crown Jewel IC match is now Bronson Reed, Gable, and Sammy. So I think
Bronson might get it.
I think Bronson is going to destroy Sammy so that Gable can steal the belt. Right?
Yeah.
I think that feels like the scapegoat.
That feels right.
Yeah,
that feels right. So Jey Uso's not going to get the IC title. He's not gonna. I don't know. I mean, they did kind of tease him, being the guy who could already take down Damian Priest. But as soon as they announced that it was going to be Jey versus Damian Priest, I was like, they're not taking the belt off Damian Priest that quick. Like that's, they already did that with Drew McIntyre, and that was a great story. But no.
And that was a great match, actually, that I wondered if they could carry that kind of main event match, and they did. And we're starting to see a face turn from Damian Priest. El Campeón is like turning face and departing potentially from the Judgment Day at some point, or the Judgment Day is just going to dissolve.
Right. I know they're building towards that. I hate it. The Judgment Day is the only thing that has made me like most of the characters that are in the Judgment Day, aside from Rhea. So really all of the male characters that are in the Judgment Day.
So with the women's Queen of the Ring bracket, we don't know who's in it until tomorrow night. We only know the Raw side, which is surprising because the men's bracket was announced prior to the taping and the show. So we've seen Io defeat Natalya. We've seen the rookie Lyra Valkyria, who I love, defeat Dakota Kai. We saw Zoe Stark, unfortunately, go over on Ivy Nile. Ivy needs the push.
I like Zoe Stark.
I do too. They shouldn't have paired him up first round. And then we got Shayna and Zelina, TBD. I don't think they had time on Raw for that or something.
Yeah, that was kind of a oof move. They moved him to a house show this weekend. Those matches are going to happen on a house show.
Or maybe like WWE Speed or something like that? Or I don't know.
Just a straight up house show. Yeah.
So do you know Ricochet is now the Speed champion?
He is.
They did not let him bring his Speed title to the ring on Raw. And he also, I think it's because they had to make Ilya Dragunov look, even more impressive, right? If they have Ricochet holding a belt and taking a loss, I think it could be confusing for the fan, so
Gotcha. That makes
I don't know.
sense.
Yeah,
Well, before we leave the female Queen of the Ring, this holds up because I was like, I actually don't know who is in Queen of the Ring, and I watched a lot of Raw, and that makes sense why I don't know who the SmackDown. Anyway, all that
right.
to say, it needs to be Tiffy time. It needs to be Tiffany Stratton. The character that if it's not her, it
Oh
needs to be
man,
Chelsea Green,
I would love
but
it.
Chelsea Green or
Love it.
Tiffany Stratton could turn that Queen gimmick into, and then you have a guaranteed path to when Charlotte Flair comes back. You think you're the queen? Let me
Yeah.
introduce you to the real queen. Oh, that would be
Right.
Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair over the queendom would
Yes.
be amazing.
Yeah, I think so too. And I can't decide what I want to see happen with the female division, which for the first time, that means creative is running it far better than I can even dream book it, which is like really
Wow.
exciting. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I, I think if I had one like thing that I'd really love to see, it would be Carmella returning and
Oh.
joining Chelsea Green and them just playing off one another as
Ooh.
like the sassiest,
Ooh.
bratty tag
The
team.
Alpha Divas.
Just would be so fun, so fun. Um, and Carmella could probably, especially coming back in, could use a partner to help carry as she gets back in, knocking off the ring rust from, 5, 6 months out, well, even longer after pregnancy. So,
Right.
women's division is exceptional right now on every show.
Yeah.
And I like
Yeah.
Valkyria far more than I thought I would.
Okay.
She has the French would call it, je ne sais quoi. Like
Je ne sais quoi.
she has a certain, a likable, charismatic quality that I did not expect to see. Um, and I don't like Jade Cargill far more than I thought was possible. Like I feel indifferent to her. I feel like her matches are botched, and there was a move last week where she went to chokeslam Asuka and like threw out the hand, and Asuka had to run into it neck first just to connect and to make it happen. And I just keep thinking like she
Oh,
she should have gone on an NXT run.
yeah.
Um, that they're gonna hide her behind Bianca's in-ring
Yeah.
talent.
Yeah.
Um, it's a weird push that I think other ladies, now physically, she's a physical specimen, and that was always, but that's what the old administration did, right? Brought
Right.
somebody that was chiseled and unprepared, just
Right.
that looked good on TV. I've said a lot. Back to you, Lee.
Yeah. No, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I think, again, I think the je ne sais quoi, like the old administration built, I'm not picking on him. He's one of the most beloved guys in the rosters, built Omos because Omos or Great Khali because he was, because of his look.
Right,
And they literally could barely go "Ugh," in
right.
time and stuff like that. I don't think Jade Cargill's in that boat. She has
Oh,
skill.
sure.
It's just very
Right.
unrefined. But she does have, Omos comes on screen and you're like, that guy's big, and that's it. Jade
Yeah.
Cargill comes on screen and you go, oh
Right.
wow, look at
Yeah,
she
she
is
stops traffic.
impressive.
Sure. Yes. She
Yeah.
is she is must-watch TV, but she needs Natalia to be her roommate and like
Right.
on the road with a veteran
Yeah.
who's pushing her 24/7.
Yep.
I think.
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
think.
No,
I
I think if this is as long as she gets better, if she doesn't get
right.
better, this is a different conversation. But as long as she gets better, and this is the most unrefined we see her, I still hold that her and Tiffany Stratton are the Charlotte Flair and Becky of the next 10 years. I think that is
Yeah.
where they're at.
Possible.
but
And Tiffany carries
she's
a
got to get
match.
better.
She works a match like nobody else. She
Right.
sells nobody else. She makes people look so impressive.
Right.
So I think we'll see that. I think we'll see that from her.
Yeah.
And like you've always defended AJ Styles in that manner. That AJ,
Yeah.
he made Cody look like a champion. He
Yeah.
put a match together with Cody that made Cody a credible champion.
Yep.
And so I'm really thankful for that.
Right.
That's probably the best match we've had out of Cody since he and Rollins with the torn pec in the cage and the high stakes.
Ooh.
That's probably Cody's best match,
I would
probably
agree.
in the company against AJ.
And it's Dave Meltzer, I think it was, who said this is a match the previous administration would not have booked because AJ is not currently a big enough star anymore. You know, his star power
Right.
is diminished because of their booking. And secondly, that match was a New Japan style match. Like it was,
I
there were
loved it.
strong style elements. It
Yeah.
was ring
Yeah.
psychology. It wasn't flash. It wasn't,
Right.
oh, look at all this, but there was, there was all the sizzle, but no steak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
You know,
really good.
you know what the Paul Levesque era is introducing to the main brand is the
Wrestling?
out of the finisher and the lots of 2 counts, right?
Yeah,
It was the NXT main staple, right? The
right.
Gargano, like hitting 90 super kicks,
Wow.
getting the 2 count against Adam Cole. Like those Adam Cole Gargano type matches are
Right.
um starting to come to the main brand. And I think that
Simply too.
that match, yeah, yeah, so fun. Well, we're
Let me
about out
ask.
of time, Lee. I think go ahead
Oh, are
before.
we? Oh, I was gonna. Okay, so last segment then we can just go with. We're gonna lose the relevance of it in a few weeks. So we talked about Becky Lynch, and I've mentioned before. I think she's not only the best female wrestler of all time, but she's in my top 5 for best wrestlers, period, of
Right,
all time. However, because she has won this title and gotten so dominant, and her legacy is that there are people who are starting to call her Becky Hogan. How do you
right.
respond to that, Rusty?
I could see that. So she's in a phase of her career now where she has nothing left to prove, no mountain to climb. So
Mm,
having a belt on her feels odd, especially a belt that was won in a battle royal instead of a Queen of the Ring. I think they should have let
yeah,
that belt go to Queen of the Ring. I think they should have let that belt go to a heel. And I think Becky needs, so like the way good literature is written, right? There has to be a hero's journey, right?
right.
There has to be a challenge. There has to be a hill to climb. There has to be a rising action, right? She's on top of the mountain. She didn't need that belt, and there is no what's the hard thing she's got to go through, you know?
Right.
Um, so other than promoting the book, I'm not sure why they did. I just that didn't make sense to me. That didn't make sense to me at all. Um,
Yeah.
Now they would have had to have done a massive rewrite, restructure, brand shift. They could have done that through the draft. They could
Yeah.
have. They could. I don't know. There were a lot of opportunities to get that right. I'm glad they left Roxanne where they did.
Mm.
That made a lot of sense, but it made no sense to say, well, let's pretend Becky won WrestleMania and then act as if Doctor Strange has, changed the multiverse. Um,
Yeah.
it's like you, I love Becky,
Right.
but in the same way, Cody will continue to need to experience hard times to stay relevant as a face champion.
Right.
Live putting out revengeful Liv Morgan against her is the right thing.
Yeah.
Like Liv needs to give her a dose.
Yep.
right? It needs to be an Extreme Rules match.
Yeah.
Becky needs to go through the fire.
Ooh,
Or
Inferno
else,
match.
yeah, right. A First Blood, something like
First blood.
that. They're gonna have to
Right.
continue to make us care about Becky, and we care about her the most when she's the underdog, when she's the girl with the bloody nose that didn't get the title shot,
Right.
when she's the one
Right.
that passed over, when she's the working class hero, right? And
Yeah.
that's the same thing is true of Cody. The reason we love Dusty is because he's the blue collar working man's champ,
Mm,
right? Who
right.
got passed over, who was the underdog hero. It's the reason we love Sami Zayn. It's the reason we love Kevin Owens, because they're the unlikely hero, and they go on the journey, and they overcome challenges. Becky has no challenges unless they
Yeah.
figure something out.
Well, and I think even just language, Becky Hogan makes me think, the Dark Knight trilogy, you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And you're right. Like when she was the underdog, everybody was rooting for her. It was her story. Now that she's the overdog, it's like, well, yeah, do we need her again? But I don't know. Like for me, when I heard that, I was initially just thinking like, okay, yes, we've talked many times before, problematic nature of some other things Hogan has done aside. If you just look at the history of wrestling, Hulk Hogan will forever be number 1 on the list, and then you talk about Steve Austin. That's the way it's always going to be, right? He's always, if you at least, we do tier lists in our game, right? So if you want to break it down, I think the Mount Rushmore concept is useless because you can't narrow wrestling down to 4 people. Like you start talking Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Rock, Hogan. Like by the time you then you're throwing out Ric Flair, Bret Hart. Like you've got that. But if you just talk about tiers, Hogan is the S plus 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 tier, and everybody else is S tier at best. Becky is in that S plus range, moving up, and that by nature makes everybody else target you and not you when you set yourself aside in that category, you become the villain, right? You start the hero, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I think if they do this title run right and she establishes, my booking was have her win at WrestleMania and then Tiffany Stratton dethrones her and we've got a great path. Yeah, I think this could be Becky's best title run if she establishes somebody else. Somebody else. Like she
Yeah,
gives the broken nose rub. Just don't botch and break somebody's nose. But she gives that Becky Lynch broken nose moment rub to the next Becky Lynch. That's where I will see this as no, she's not Becky Hogan. She's not, the rumor, Hogan held everybody down. That doesn't work for me, brother, and just win over all the time. I don't think that's Becky. I think she legitimately is going to establish a future star. But we'll see. We'll see.
well said. And I think what my takeaway from this is it's going to be really hard to keep Tiffany Stratton from reaching the peak of her career um,
Too
before
soon.
the next WrestleMania. It's going to be
Yeah.
she's lightning in a bottle, and she's going to
Right.
put on the best matches. I want to see a program with Tiffany and Bianca. That
Yeah.
those might be consistently some of the 5-star. Like when we talk about 5-star matches, rarely are there women's matches in the conversation. But I think
Yeah.
they've got the ability and they've got the creative mind now to start having exceptional, exceptional, not just single matches, but like story arcs that have drama and intrigue and suspicion and double crossing, all of the elements that we love, right? The
Right.
drama, So like I am really optimistic, but I think it keeps coming back to Tiffany Stratton. The conversation,
Yeah.
any conversation we have about the women's division accidentally gravitates towards Tiffany, which
Yeah.
tells you something about her, which tells you
She's the
that
next
she
Becky.
cannot be suppressed, if you overlook her, she will become even bigger. LA Knight, right? She will be,
Right.
if you say this is not your time, the fans will push her Daniel Bryan style, LA Knight style. She's, I mean, even at the press conference in Lyon, she was as over as anyone else that came out
Yeah.
that had infinitely more time, and the fans were chanting her name. Typically, what you don't do as a heel, right? So
Right.
she's getting that face pop, and they love the heel persona.
Agreed.
It's hard not to be a raving fan of what Tiffany Stratton's doing in the ring and on the mic in WWE wrestling.
I agree. I agree.
That's
Well,
all for me.
that's all we got for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in, especially, as this confusing new 6-star gold meta rolls out. We will continue to help be your guides, to help you not only get into the 6-star gold meta, but make the most of it. And it's an honor to be a part of such an awesome community. Let's keep being awesome to one another, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.